السلام عليكم.
Who could have imagined it? Life in the land called Aceh was steeped in hatred and intractable violence, full of sorrow. Then, in a flash, it was over. Life in Aceh has become normal, peaceful, and harmonious. Before, the people were engaged in murderous pursuits and bloodshed. But now they live side by side, protecting each other, striving for mutual trust. Yet this region at the far end of Western Indonesia is a place with complicated history, a place of turbulence, where times of pride and dignity are tainted with sorrow and tears. The history of Aceh after independence is clouded in gloom. Political resolve and collective dignity mounted, along with a sense of injustice that resulted from numerous Indonesian government policy, driving the people of Aceh to Aceh Freedom Movement, which resulted in a 30-year armed conflict. In each battle, whatever the goal, the people of Aceh have faced a great deal of destruction. Destructions of the environment, of wealth, of homes, of loved ones, and even of their sanity and sense of self.
During the conflict, it was incredibly difficult for us here to go about our daily activities as teachers.
Aktivitas kami sebagai guru dalam hal mengajar, karena
Because schools were set on fire. Ours too was burned, and no one was held accountable.
When the kids would hear the sound of weapons, they'd run inside. At school too, there'd be someone who'd come from GAM. Sometimes they'd come just with their weapons, and we were already terrified. There'd be lots of questions. Who came? From this side, sometimes from that side. Those questions were the hardest for me to answer. We were so scared.
mau mengajar.
Teaching was forbidden in Aceh. We were forced to teach the kids in places like prayer rooms, in mosques. We hardly knew what to do.
Kenapa ini bisa terjadi?
Dari pihak yang mau berperang ini sebetulnya.
If you ask which side wanted war, no one wanted war. But because of historical exploitation by Indonesia, the Acehnese reacted to defend themselves and their land.
Saya ingat sekali.
I remember when Professor Norden met with his students. He asked, "How much is given to Aceh?" "Not sure," his students responded. "The fact is that Aceh gets only 0.36%. That means not even 0.5% for the Acehnese." Why did the Acehnese form the group called the Free Aceh Movement? My conclusion at that time was that it resulted from the Acehnese people's dissatisfaction over the policies from the government in Jakarta.
Ketidakadilannya ekonomi.
Economic inequality. Aceh is rich in natural resources, but Aceh itself doesn't receive a very large portion of that for its own development, meaning that a lot of their wealth is taken away. Additionally, attention from the central government is sorely lacking. That is what aroused anger in Aceh.
Teman-teman masyarakat Aceh itu marah.
Dan akhirnya menjadi suatu.
And finally, there was a political movement to free Aceh from Indonesia.
It is still very clear in my memory what happened that day. On Monday at 8 o'clock in the morning, the 26th of December 2004, a massive earthquake struck, 9.3 on the Richter scale, followed by a tsunami that tore through Aceh, killing at least 200,000 people.
Dengan keterbatasan alat, keterbatasan SDM, keterbatasan tenaga, kami tetap berusaha untuk mencarikan. Kami memutar kaset satu demi satu untuk bisa menemukan di mana, karena kami beban, Pak, kami beban moral, kami Itu sudah tayang di Metro. Mereka bilang itu tayang di Metro, anak saya selamat. Tolong beritahu kami di mana anak kami.
I had never seen before such distractions or felt such heart-rending sorrow. As at the moment I saw those countless bodies strewn across the land, scattered among the debris of villages, utterly leveled to the ground. I could not hold back my tears when I saw the thousands who were still clinging to life, enduring extraordinary suffering, their injured bodies tangled in the wreckage.
At that time, I was in shock by what I saw in Aceh.
Sewaktu pagi itu,
That morning, a Sunday, after the jarring of the earthquake, people were screaming, "The sea is rising! The sea is rising!"
Kami terkejut air laut itu apa.
We were surprised that the seawater could go up onto the land. 100 meters, I ordered the kids. And at 100 meters, we were hit by the water.
Ya Allah ya Tuhanku.
Oh my God, the water rose as high as the coconut trees. We ran. There was no time to save anything.
Di dalam air saya masih gendong.
In the water, I was still holding my 6-month-old child. Was he still alive or not? His eyes were shut. I thought he'd soon be taken by the water.
Udah kiamat.
I thought it was the end of the world.
Saya menangis.
I cried at what I saw. How could you not cry seeing hundreds of people before you, laid out in a row and unknown? The orphans cried. I saw the light in their eyes was gone, as if there was no future.
Itu tawakal Allah.
We surrendered ourselves to Allah.
After all of that turbulence, in an instant, a tsunami brought Aceh to its knees. The catastrophe of such magnitude drew the attentions of all the people of Indonesia and the world toward Aceh. The citizens of Indonesia of all ethnic groups from across the archipelago came forward to lend a hand, their hearts filled with compassion. A remarkable solidarity took root among the people all over the world.
Tidak mungkin kita.
It would not be possible to rehabilitate Aceh without peace. Thousands of people were coming from within Indonesia and abroad, and if even one person were shot or missing, surely aid would have ceased.
Pasti berhenti ini.
Tsunami
The tsunami hit Aceh, and international parties came to meet us in Stockholm. They suggested that we quickly hold negotiations with the Republic of Indonesia in order to finish the conflict and facilitate the safe influx of international aid to help.
supaya selesai masalah konflik, untuk memudahkan mereka itu datang ke Aceh secara aman untuk membantu Aceh. Di situ
From
kami
there, we felt very touched. This was the will of God, and we had to accept it. That's how we held the talks.
Dan caranya kita jalankan perundingan.
Saya menelpon.
I called the commanding leader of the Free Aceh movement and exclaimed, "Let's sit together and find a peaceful solution." He responded positively. I thought, why not use another approach? An approach of love, care, of heart, and of mind. And finally, forgiveness.
Heart and mind. Pendekatan akhirnya ya forgiveness.
Why harbor vengeance?
I say to the delegates, the government of Indonesia came to this table, peace talk, bring only one message. A clear message is a pardon, amnesty. If we can talk, the government offer amnesty, which is a good vehicle for reconciliation.
This step had to be taken together. Tsunami victims and reconciliation both needed solutions.
President Ahtisaari of Finland, the one who mediated us, saying, Mr. Awaludin, can you elaborate what do you mean by amnesty? And I say, amnesty means a pardon. From legal point of view, we have a mechanism, constitutional mechanism to pardon people. Gentlemen, delegates of the Aceh movement, the first thing the government will provide after signing the peace agreement is amnesty, which means all of the criminal charges will be dropped. All of the prisoners and detainees, Acehnese prisoners, will be released. And those Acehnese people who are outside the country can come back as Indonesian people with dignity. And remember, the main principle of the peace talk is dignity for all. And after elaborating the idea of amnesty, I saw Mr. Malik Mahmud's face. All of a sudden, look so happy. Look so happy.
On that day, it was decided in Helsinki because we had direct communication with the people. We thanked God and prayed in tears.
After the tsunami that brought with it such distraction, life was never the same in Aceh. Anger, revenge, and rage were all swept away in a single day. A blessing was born out of the disaster. Mutual love between fellow citizens spurred unexpectedly, rekindling feelings of togetherness. Wounded hearts and long-standing feelings of mistrust now gradually began to subside, making way for mutual forgiveness. The two warring sides, in conflict for all this time, came to an understanding that the real and indeed the most difficult war was a war that did not involve weapons. Something truly miraculous. From every act of distractions emerged a hope that is more often felt than spoken. Now the dark clouds that once hovered over Aceh have been replaced by a more peaceful light. History will record how people came together in the spirit of love and forgiveness, despite differences and legacy of conflict. Together, they created a new spirit based on an appreciation of diversity, a beautiful harmony.
We will continue building this peace. We will continue building trust so that we can stay on the same page.
Saya punya keyakinan bahwa dengan dua agenda besar,
I have faith that with two agendas in developing post-tsunami Aceh, strengthening the economy and post-conflict reintegration, that trust and togetherness will return, and Aceh will change.
Sesama saudara, maka Aceh akan berubah. All of a sudden, this hostility ended and started to be a moment of truth for the people of Aceh. Reconciliation was in place, peaceful relation between the two conflicting parties was in place, thanks to the feeling of love and forgiveness by both parties.
Today, the vertical conflict between GAM and the Indonesian government is mostly just a memory. But the violence of the past still threatens to erupt in the new struggles for power, as the habits of peace are only built over time with great patience. The spirit of love and forgiveness must be constantly nurtured to maintain peace.
It's like driving a car. We can't always be looking back in the rearview mirror. We have to look forward, and only occasionally look back, in order to not repeat past mistakes.
Stop war and build a healthy society.
Compared to before, things are 1,000% better now. We're enthusiastic to work, be it cutting grass or going out to the rice paddies.
Everything will be settle in love and forgiveness.
No future without forgiveness. Dan kita tidak ingin
And we don't want our present to be haunted by our past.
dijajah oleh masa lalu.